All right. First of all, appreciate you all coming out here today to talk about Real ID. It starts in full compliance tomorrow. So I just wanted to share some planning that we've done, some expectations and things of that nature. But most importantly, I appreciate you all being out here because if it doesn't get communicated to the public, sometimes we don't get the results that we want. And this topic has been communicated to the public for many, many years. So quite frankly, everybody should be prepared and ready to go. I also want to acknowledge the officers that are to my left and right and really recognize them for the work that they do each and every day. They do a wonderful job. We have their back. They're part of the national security enterprise, and they do a wonderful job making sure the public gets to their destination safely. So why does this all matter, and why is there a Real ID? And I don't know where you were on September 11th of 2001. I was with the New York State Police, and I had the ability to respond, the aftermath and things of that nature. And so that's where this was born out of. It was actually mentioned in the 9/11 Commission report, and people may not know this, but many of the terrorists had documents that were gotten by fraudulent means, through fraudulent documentation. And they were able to get on the planes that then crashed into the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and then also a field in Pennsylvania. So that's what this is all about. And that turned into the Intelligence Reform and Terrorist Prevention Act of 2004. And then a subset of that was the Real ID Act that was passed, I believe, on May 11th, in fact, of 2005. So that's 20 years ago. So this is long overdue. I'm personally, glad it's here, because what it means is that the people that you're going to be sitting next to on the plane are required to present certain identification to get ID that allows them to get on a plane. So it's very important. And once again, it's been around for a long time and it's been highly publicized. So some of the things that you need is your social security number, proof of your date of birth, proof of citizenship or legal being here in the country legally, your address, and then DMV creates a document that is Real ID compliant, or actually Real ID, that has on it name, address, DOB, hologram maybe, bar scanning, and things that make that identification much more reliable. So New York State is about 40% compliant. I was just talking to some of the officers out front, and the good news is it seems as though people are getting the message and making sure that they have Real ID, something that's Real ID compliant, or a passport, or a DOD, Department of Defense identification, or something like global entry. So that's the good news. But we are still encountering individuals that don't have the proper identification. So what have we done within TSA to prepare? And just remember that I'm responsible for all the airports outside of New York City. So I've done this in Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, and now here in Buffalo to get the message out. So we interacted very, very closely with the leadership here in Buffalo Airport and also in Niagara, that being the Executive Director, Lee Weitz. He's a great partner. He's very supportive of everything that we're doing, and he's obviously supporting this initiative. You also see some posters that are out there, some videos that you see as you're in the queue. And we also know what the throughput is going to be tomorrow, so we're ready. We're properly staffed up. These officers are ready to go. We're paying out overtime. We're moving people around to make sure that we have the coverage here at the airport to make this go as seamless as possible. So what should the traveler do? Before you leave your house, make sure you have an acceptable form of ID. Once again, a passport, DOD, Real ID compliant. And by that, I mean identifications, like these. So this one here, this one is Real ID compliant. You see the star, in the upper right-hand corner. So that's Real ID compliant, and you'll be fine when you come to the airport. Another one, and this is the one that I actually have, it's the enhanced driver's license. And that one has a flag either in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner. That's a flag, and this is enhanced driver's license, which means it's Real ID compliant, and it allows me to go across the Mexican border or the Canadian border. So this too is acceptable, no issue, and a passport is also acceptable. What won't be acceptable tomorrow is one that says not for federal purposes, which means you, according to regulation, you're not supposed to be getting on a plane or getting access to a federal building. So I would strongly recommend that the individuals who are going to be flying out of here tomorrow know what they have in their possession and be prepared when they come to the checkpoint to work with the officers. So what's going to happen is, and these officers, as you saw Officer Wilson, there earlier today, they're in the queue, they're out there, they're already engaging with everybody to check with them as it relates to, hey, do you have real ID or do you have a passport? Hey, you're good to go. And if not, starting tomorrow, we're going to be giving them this form for people who do not have appropriate identification. And this will direct them to a certain location, during which time they could be delayed or they may receive additional screening. So this is TSA complying with the regulation. And our hope is that everybody is going to come here, and they too are going to comply with the regulations. So effective tomorrow, first thing, probably starting at 3:30 in the morning, these officers are going to be in the queue interacting with the passengers as they come up, and then identifying those individuals who do not have compliant identifications to get access to the checkpoint to get out. So how can the public further assist? Understand that these officers have a job to do. All right, cooperate with them, listen to them, understand that they're there for a reason, and that job one is security. They're literally the last line of defense. I've been asked now in 2 separate locations, what will happen if an individual gets in an argument, with an officer. Do yourself a favor and don't do that, all right, because it's not serving any legitimate purpose. And remember, they're doing their job, so help them out. And thank goodness we have a great relationship with Chief Patterson and Captain Lubear of the NFTA Police. They're going to have extra staff on hand, and we're very appreciative. But having said that, I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe everybody's going to be understanding, cooperative, and supportive to make sure that these individuals, the passengers, get to their destination safely. So when you're flying out, thank the officers for doing a job. All right, when I go through, I travel with my wife, my grandkids, and my family, and I always make sure that I go out of my way to thank them for keeping me safe. So remember, tomorrow, Real ID, it's effective, full implementation, and just be aware of the type of document that you have and be prepared. So with that, I'll take any questions. Yes, sir.
Mark, I think people want to know, bottom line, you show up, you don't have it, and you want to get on. Is it a firm no?
I'm not going to commit to that one way or the other because we have an operational plan and operational cadence. I just want to have the people understand that if they get here on time, compliant, cooperative, they may be delayed, they may receive additional screening, but I believe they will make their flight.
Okay, so they can get on the plane without it, because then you talk about additional screening, and I'm wondering, what does that involve? Because I still won't have a real ID whether I go through your additional screening or not. And how stingy are you going to be about this?
We're going to be, very much involved. We're going to be very careful. We're going to be very secure, and individuals may be selected for additional screening. I'm not going to share with the general public what that general additional screening is because I don't want to make ourselves vulnerable and tip up anybody who may try to take advantage of the situation.
For those that don't have the real ID of this additional screening, is this considered like a grace period before people?
No, there's no grace period. This is full compliance. The public need to finally understand that they have a responsibility, and their responsibility is to contribute to our national security and follow the regulations. It's been 20 years. It's been 7 years since 2018. It's an easy process. I did it like in 30 minutes by visiting a DMV, presenting, following the rules. I'm a rule follower. So please follow the rules. And if you don't have real ID, if you have a passport, everything's going to be fine.
Bart, in the last few years, millions of undocumented people have been allowed into the country. Do they get a pass?
Anybody who is a U.S. citizen and here legally will not have an issue. I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to talk about any policy things other than to say I support. So no, they will not be able to fly if they don't have valid ID. They will not be able to fly.
So undocumented person, because you started
Th-
talking
They
about
are not.
Social Security
They are
numbers.
not going to be able to fly an undocumented alien. Yes, actually, that started a while ago. So.
I think you said 40% of New York State is compliant right now after 20 years. Is that number concerning to you? And what's your message to the 60% that hasn't figured this out?
Please comply and follow the rules. You know, once again, we're doing our part, so please do your part. It's not that hard. It's been going on since 2018. It was delayed. COVID caused a very significant delay. I think it was actually February 7th. I had a press conference on this in 2020, and then the next month everything shut down. So it's just been going on long enough, and I'm very thankful and glad, and I think these officers are, that finally, you know, people are going to be required to follow the rules and the regulations.
Your press release indicates across the country, 81% of travelers at checkpoints present acceptable forms of ID. Estimate in New York State, 41. Any thoughts of why the disparity there? Why we're a little behind the curve here?
No, I'm not going to speculate on anything that I don't have the empirical evidence on. I'm just going to say that tomorrow is full compliance tomorrow, and we're hoping that that number is going to increase greatly. And by all indications, as evidenced by my conversations with these officers before, compliance seems to be higher than what I anticipated it to be, which is a good news story.
Are you advising travelers at all that maybe this initial period of the real ID and making sure that travelers are coming in maybe a little earlier than anticipated? Any concerns over delays that you would advise travelers for?
I would submit that people who have real ID or a passport or real ID compliant documents who get here 2 hours ahead of time will not have any delays. They won't be additionally screened. However, for those individuals that don't, no guarantees. You know, it could be delays. They may miss their flight. They may receive additional screening. There's different courses of action that can happen that I'm not going to share at this podium.
And here specifically at Buffalo Airport, is anything different in terms of the way people go through TSA? And is there any sort of extra lanes or anything that they're doing to prepare for the real ID compliance, or is it just business as usual?
It's going to be business as usual, and once again, TSA is doing the right thing and taking the personal responsibility on ourselves to go out and overtly locate in the queue with a normal course of business for those individuals that do not have real ID or appropriate identification to get on a plane.
Is there anything additionally you could bring with you if you don't have it, you know, that would help these guys in this, whatever process you don't want to be specific about, but is there anything else you might be able to bring to help them and help yourself get on the plane?
Yes, a real ID or a real ID compliant or a passport.
If you don't have one, is there anything else?
No, absolutely nothing.
Anything else
Nope.
to help?
Nope.
Okay.
You may not know the answer to this right now, but will there be a time where those people without real IDs even just won't be able to fly, period?
There are other plans being developed. I don't know what they are yet, but I'm pretty sure, you know, further actions will be taken. But once again, tomorrow is full compliance in our eyes.
For persons that are traveling from other countries, they have a legitimate passport, you know, maybe they're from India, Canada, Mexico, and they're flying domestically in the United States, will their passport serve as their real ID?
Yes. And a passport isn't real ID. Real ID is cascading to the states in the form of a driver's license. Passport is a standalone document that's been accepted, will continue to be accepted to get people on planes unimpeded without issue.
Last question, anybody else?
Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate you coming, and thanks to these officers. Thank you.